Chapter 7. The Executive. Article 69. Economic Objectives. The government shall have the duty to formulate policies that ensure that all Ethiopians can benefit from their legacy of intellectual and material resources. The government must ensure that all Ethiopians get equal opportunity to improve their economic condition and promote equitable distribution of wealth. The government shall take measures to avert any natural and human-made disasters and, in the event of disasters, provide timely assistance to the victims. The government shall give a special gift to the people least advantaged in economic and social development. On behalf of the people, land, and other natural resources, the government must hold on behalf of the people, land, and other natural resources, and deploy them for their common benefit and growth. The government shall promote the participation of the people in the formulation of national development policies and programs. It shall also have the duty to support the initiatives of the people in their development endeavors. The government shall ensure the participation of women in equality with men in all economic and social development endeavors. The government shall endeavor to protect and promote the health, welfare, and living standards of the country's working population. Article 70. Social Objectives. To the extent the country's resources permit, policies shall aim to provide all Ethiopians with access to public health and education, clean water, housing, food, and social security. Education shall provide in a manner that is free from any religious influence, political partisanship, or cultural prejudices. Article 71. Cultural Objectives. The government shall have the duty to support equality, the growth and enrichment of cultures and traditions compatible with fundamental rights, human dignity, democratic norms and ideals, and the provisions of laws. The government and all Ethiopian citizens shall have the duty to protect the country's natural endowment, historical sites, and objects. To the extent its resources permit, the government shall have an obligation to support the arts, science, and technology development. Article 72. Environmental Objectives. The government shall endeavor to ensure that all Ethiopians live in a clean and healthy environment. The design and implementation of programs and projects of development shall not damage or destroy the environment. People have the right to full consultation and express views in the planning and executing of environmental policies and projects that directly affect them. Government and citizens shall have the duty to protect the environment. Article 73. Declaration of State Emergency. A Council of Ministers of the federal government shall have the power to decree an emergency when an external invasion, a breakdown of law and order that endangers the constitutional order and cannot be controlled by the regular law enforcement agencies, a natural disaster, or an epidemic occurs. B. Provincial executives can decree a province-wide of emergency should a natural disaster or an epidemic occur. Particulars shall be determined in province constitutions as promulgated in conformity with this constitution. C. An emergency declared by subarticle A of this article shall be announced when the House of People's Representatives is in session. The decree shall submit to the House within 48 hours of its declaration. D. An emergency decreed by the Council of Ministers, if approved by the majority vote of the House of People's Representatives, can remain in effect for up to 6 months. E. When of emergency is declared, the Council of Ministers shall, by regulations it issues, have all necessary power to protect the country's peace and sovereignty, and to maintain public security, law, and order. Article 74. Financial Expenditures. The federal government and the provinces shall respectively bear all financial expenditures necessary to carry out all responsibilities and functions assigned to them by law. Unless otherwise agreed upon, a province's financial expenses for carrying out any delegated part shall bear by the delegating party. The federal government may grant to emergency, rehabilitation, and development assistance, and loans, due care taken that such service and loans do not hinder the proportionate growth of provinces. The Audit General of the federal government shall have the power to audit and inspect the province's proportional development. Article 75. Federal Revenue. Revenue, the federal government and the provinces shall share revenue taking the federal arrangement into account. Article 76, the federal government power of taxation. The federal government shall levy and collect customs duties, taxes, and other imports and exports. It shall charge and collect income tax on employees of the federal government and international organizations. It shall levy and collect income, profit, sales, and excise taxes on enterprises owned by the federal government. It shall tax the income and winnings of national lotteries and other games of chance. It shall levy and collect taxes on the payment of air, rail, and sea transport services. It shall charge and collect taxes on the income of houses and properties owned by the federal government. It shall fix rents. It shall determine and collect fees relating to licenses issued and services rendered by the federal government's organs. It shall levy and collect taxes on monopolies. Under the Ethiopian new constitution, all new importing goods tax tariffs are only 5.63%. Under the Ethiopian new constitution, all new or used electronic importing goods are free from tax tariffs. For example, computers, TV, etc. Under the Ethiopian new constitution, all used importing goods tax tariffs are only 1.3%. Under the Ethiopian new constitution, all exporting goods tax tariffs are only 13%. Under the Ethiopian new constitution, all importing and exporting goods tax tariffs, the customer's insurance and shipment expenses are deductible depending on their receipts. Therefore, all tax tariffs are based on goods values only. Federal tax tariffs share. 1. Payroll tax equals 3%. 2. Sales tax equals 3%. 3. Property tax equals 0. 4. Corporation tax equals 5%. Article 77. Provinces' power of taxation. Provinces shall levy and collect income taxes on employees of the areas and private enterprises. Provinces shall determine and collect fees for land rights. Provinces shall levy and collect taxes on the incomes of private farmers and farmers incorporated in cooperative associations. Provinces shall levy and collect profit and sales taxes on individual traders carrying out business within their administrative territory. Provinces shall levy and collect taxes on income from transport services rendered on waters within their administrative territory. They shall levy and collect taxes on income derived from private houses and other properties within the province. They shall collect rent on homes and other stuff they own. Provinces shall levy and collect profit, sales, excise, and personal income taxes on the income of enterprises owned by the regions. Provinces shall levy and collect taxes on income derived from mining operations and royalties and land rentals on such operations. They shall determine and collect fees relating to licenses issued and services rendered by province organs. They shall fix and collect a royalty for the use of forest resources. Provinces' tax tariffs. 1. Payroll tax equals 5%. 2. Sales tax equals 5%. 3. Property tax equals 0. 4. Corporation tax equals 7%. Administrations equivalent to provinces. Administratives tax tariffs, Addis Ababa, Gambela, Afar, Ogaden, Somali. 1. Payroll tax equals 5%. 2. Sales tax equals 5%. 3. Property tax equals 0. 4. Corporation tax equals 7%. Administrative federal tax tariffs share, Addis Ababa, Gambela, Afar, Ogaden, Somali. 1. Payroll tax equals 3%. 2. Sales tax equals 3%. 3. Property tax equals 0. 4. Corporation tax equals 5%. Article 78. Concurrent power of taxation. The federal government and the provinces shall jointly levy and collect profit, sales, excise, and personal income taxes on enterprises they together establish. They shall jointly assess and collect taxes on the earnings of companies and dividends due to shareholders. They shall jointly levy and collect taxes on incomes derived from large-scale mining and all petroleum and gas operations, and royalties on such operations. Under the Ethiopian Federal Government Administration, the Ethiopian People National Natural Resources here listed or unlisted, all other natural wealth governed by the federal government include oil and petroleum, gold, silver, diamond, tantalum, potassium, large rivers, dams, Ethiopian airlines, railroads, national media, all natural minerals, national banks and insurances, all historic properties, example, Hilton Hotel, Guyan Hotel, tourist organizations, Black Lion Hospital, and Addis Ababa University. Article 79. Undesignated powers of taxation. Undesignated powers of taxation. The House of the Federation and the House of People's Representatives shall, in a joint session, determine by a majority vote on the exercise of taxation powers that have not explicitly been provided in the new Constitution. Article 80. Directives on taxation. In exercising their taxing powers, provinces and the federal government shall ensure that any tax is related to the revenue tax source and that determined following proper considerations. They shall ensure that the tariff does not adversely affect their relationship and that the rate and amount of taxes shall be commensurate with services the taxes help deliver. Neither provinces nor the federal government shall levy and collect taxes on each other's property unless it is a profit-making enterprise. Article 81. The Auditor General. As an independent office, the Office of the Auditor General has 7 board members under this Constitution. The Auditor's Office General is a watchdog office for Ethiopian people to protect public funds. In this Constitution, the Auditor General ensures checks and balances in the exercise of public power. The accounts of the Auditor General will themselves audited by an accountant in private practice. The people entrust the Auditor General to examine every public body's accounts exercising power on behalf of Ethiopia's people. The Auditor General shall appoint by the House of People's Representatives. The Auditor General shall audit and inspect the accounts of ministries, courts, and other agencies of the federal government to ensure that expenditures for activities carried out during the fiscal year and by the approved allocations and submit his reports thereon to the House of People's Representatives. The Auditor General shall draw up and submit for approval to the House of People's Representatives his office's annual budget. Article 82. Election Board and Election Fraud. There shall establish a national election board independent of any influence, to conduct in an impartial manner free and fair election in federal government and provinces' constituencies. Under the Ethiopian Constitution, election fraud takes place for 15 years in prison, including the President. Article 83. Population Census Commission. Under this Constitution, a national census shall conduct only A. Men, B. Women, C. Children, boys or girls. Under this Constitution, a national census prohibited to include race, tribe, and color among the Ethiopian people. For example, Amhara, Oromo, Tigray, etc. There shall establish a national census commission that shall conduct a population census periodically. The House of People's Representatives shall appoint members of the National Census Commission upon the President's recommendation. The Commission shall have a Secretary General and necessary professional and support staff. The annual budget of the Commission shall submit for approval to the House of People's Representatives. A national population census shall conduct every 10 years. The House of the Federal Government shall determine constituencies' boundaries by the census results and a proposal submitted to the House by the National Election Board. The Commission shall be accountable to the House of People's Representatives. It shall submit to the House periodic reports on the conduct of its programs and activities. Article 84. Initiation of Amendments. Initiation of amendments. Any proposal for a constitutional amendment, if supported by a majority vote in the House of People's Representatives. Initiation of amendments by majority vote in the House of the Federal Government or the provincial councils of the member provinces. Initiation of amendment by a majority vote in each council has supported. It needs discussion and decision to the general public and those whom the amendment of the Constitution concerns. Article 85, Amendment of the Constitution. All rights and freedoms to this Constitution can amend only in all provincial people, by a majority vote, approve the proposed amendments. Article 86, Cessation. Under the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia Constitution, all provinces, including administrations, have equal distribution. Under the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia Constitution, demanding for cessation is prohibited, and it is a federal constitutional crime. Under this constitution, Ethiopia is a universal land for all Ethiopians, and every Ethiopians have the right to live anywhere, or any place when he/she likes to live in the country. Article 87, Election of Mayor and City Councils. Under the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia Constitution, all cities and municipalities in Ethiopia shall elect their mayors only by direct public vote. Article 88, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia National Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court Justices of the Democratic Republic of Ethiopia have a formal authority to decide the demarcation of conflicts between courts, administration, the federal government, and the provincial governments. The Constitutional Court hears election complaints, holds elected officials accountable for their conduct in office. The Constitutional Court adjudicates, make a formal decision, on liability claims, or the partners accept any risks against our country and its bureaucracy. The Ethiopian Constitutional Court has a legal authority to make a judgment on the disputed matter or on competing claims as follows: A. Between courts and the bureaucracy. B. Between federal courts and provincial courts. C. Between other courts and the Constitutional Court. D. Between local governments and the federal government. The Ethiopian Constitutional Court judges shall lead by one chairman and 14 judges, who shall elect from 14 provinces, and additionally from Addis Ababa city for single 8-year terms. However, all judges have an unlimited period to run for re-election every 8 years. Also, they must possess the following qualifications: A. Natural-born citizen of Ethiopia, residing in or abroad of Ethiopia. B. At least 35 years of age. C. Proven capacity for public administration. D. Must not have been candidates for any elective position preceding their appointment, and free from the governmental body. Besides, the chairman and a majority of the Ethiopian Constitutional Court judges must be members of the lawyers, who reside inside or abroad of Ethiopia, who have engaged in law practice for at least 5 years. The Constitutional Court justices must free from governmental and political party affiliation. Article 89, the Ethiopian Constitutional Commissions. The Ethiopian Constitutional Commissions, aside from the 3 branches of government, identified in Article 1 of Chapter 1 in this Constitution, established with 4 independent, fiscally autonomous commissions. 1. The Ethiopian Constitutional Civil Service Commission, ECCSC. 2. The Ethiopian Constitutional Commission on Elections, ECCOE. 3. The Ethiopian Constitutional Commission on Audit, ECCOA. 4. The Ethiopian Commission on Human Rights, ECHR. 1. Ethiopian Constitutional Civil Service Commission, ECCSC. The Constitution entrusts the Civil Service Administration, inclusive of all the branches, subdivisions, instrumentalities, and agencies of the government, and government-owned or controlled corporations, to the Ethiopian Constitutional Civil Service Commission, ECCSC. The ECCSC acts as the central personnel agency of the government. It is mandated to adopt measures to promote morale, efficiency, integrity, responsiveness, progressiveness, and courtesy in the bureaucracy. It strengthens the merit and reward system within government agencies, integrates human resources development programs for all levels and ranks, and institutionalizes a climate conducive to transparency and accountability. The ECCSC is administering the career service eligibility examinations for prospective government officers and employees. The ECCSC shall be led by one chairman and 14 commissioners, who shall be elected from 14 provinces, and additionally from Addis Ababa City for a single 8-year term. However, all commissioners have unlimited time to run for re-election every 8 years. Also, they must possess the following qualifications. A natural-born citizen of Ethiopia, residing in or abroad of Ethiopia. B. At least 35 years of age. C. Proven capacity for public administration. D. Must not have been candidates for any elective position preceding their appointment, and free from the governmental body. E. The ECCSC must free from governmental and political party affiliation. Besides, the chairman and other commissioners must be the lawyers who reside inside or abroad of Ethiopia, who have to engage in law practice for at least 5 years. 2. Ethiopian Constitutional Commission on Elections, ECCOE. The Ethiopian Constitutional Commission on Elections, ECCOE, is the independent government body of Ethiopia, responsible for regular and special elections in the country. Like other constitutional commissions, the ECCOE is an independent and fiscally autonomous body free from political interference or influence from the 3 branches of government, which makes possible free, fair, and honest elections. According to the Constitution, the ECCOE shall exercise and perform the following powers and functions. Enforce and administer all laws and regulations relative to an election, plebiscite, direct vote, initiative, referendum, and recall. Exercise exclusive original jurisdiction over contests relating to the elections returns and qualifications of elective regional, provincial, and city officials, and appellate jurisdiction over battles involving elective municipal and decided by trial courts. Decide all questions affecting elections, including determining the number and location of polling places, the appointment of election officials and inspectors, and voters' registration. The law enforcement agencies and instrumentalities of the government, including the armed forces of Ethiopia, ensure peaceful, orderly, and credible elections. Register political parties, organizations, or coalitions, and accredit citizens' arms or watchdogs. File petitions in court for inclusion or exclusion of voters, investigate and prosecute cases of violations of election laws, including election fraud, offenses, and malpractices. Recommend to Congress measures to minimize election spending, limit places for propaganda materials, and prevent and penalize all forms of election frauds, offenses, and nuisance candidates. Submit a comprehensive report on each election's conduct, plebiscite, initiative, referendum, or recall to the President and Congress. The ECCOE shall have a chairman and 14 commissioners, who shall elect from the 14 provinces, and Addis Ababa City for single 8-year terms. However, all commissioners have unlimited time to run for re-election every 8 years. They must satisfy the following qualifications. A natural-born citizen of Ethiopia, residing in or abroad of Ethiopia. At least 35 years of age. The holder of a college degree. Has not been a candidate for any elective position in the immediately preceding elections, free from the governmental body. ECCOE must free from governmental and political party affiliation. Besides, the chairman and other commissioners must be the lawyers who reside inside or abroad of Ethiopia, who have to engage in law practice for at least 5 years. 3. Ethiopian Constitutional Commission on Audit, ECCOA. The Ethiopian Constitutional Commission on Audit, ECCOA, established in this constitution to audit, examine, and settle all revenue funds, expenditures, and property owned or held in trust by the government. Additionally, agencies, including other constitutional commissions, government-owned or controlled corporations, autonomous colleges and universities, and non-governmental entities receiving subsidy or equity from or through the government. ECCOA's additional powers and functions in this constitution include: A. Promote accounting auditing rules, regulations, prevention, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, unreasonable expenditures, using government funds and properties. B. Submit annual reports to the President and Congress on the government's financial condition and operation. C. Recommend measures to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of government operations. D. Keep the government's general accounts and preserve the vouchers and supporting papers about it. E. Decide any case brought before it within 60 days. The ECCOA shall comprise a chairperson and 14 commissioners, who shall elect from the 14 provinces and Addis Ababa city for single 8-year terms. However, all commissioners have unlimited time to run for re-election every 8 years. The officials mentioned must possess the following criteria. A. A natural-born citizen of Ethiopia and residing in or abroad of Ethiopia. B. At least 35 years of age. C. A certified public accountant with not less than 5 years of auditing experience or a member of the Ethiopian Auditing Association member and has been engaged in law practice for at least 5 years. D. Has not been a candidate for any elective position in the preceding elections or free from any governmental body. E. ECCOA must free from governmental and political party affiliation. Besides, the chairman and other commissioners must be the lawyers who reside inside or abroad of Ethiopia, who have to engage in law practice for at least 5 years. 4. Ethiopian Commission on Human Rights. Ethiopian Commission on Human Rights, ECHOR, is an independent commission of Ethiopians on human rights. The ECHOR has the following powers and function. Investigate all forms of human rights violations involving civil and political rights. Provide appropriate legal measures for the protection of the human rights of all persons within the Ethiopians and Ethiopians residing in or abroad of Ethiopia. Provide preventive measures and legal aid services to the underprivileged whose human rights have been violated or need protection. Exercise visiting powers, directed by Congress, of jails, prisons, or detention facilities. Establish a research program, education, and information to enhance respect for the importance of human rights. Recommend to Congress effective measures to promote human rights and provide compensation to victims of human rights violations or their families. Investigate all forms of human rights violations involving civil and political rights. Provide appropriate legal measures for the protection of the human rights of all persons within the Ethiopians and Ethiopians residing in or abroad of Ethiopia. Provide preventive measures and legal aid services to the underprivileged whose human rights have been violated or need protection. Monitor the government's compliance with international treaty obligations on human rights. Grant immunity from prosecution to any person whose testimony or possession of evidence is necessary or convenient to determine the truth in any matter it investigates. The ECHOR is composed of a chairman and 14 commissioners, who shall elect from 14 provinces and Addis Ababa city for a single 8-year term. However, all commissioners have unlimited time to run for re-election every 8 years. The qualifications for the chairman and commissioners of ECHOR are as follows. A natural-born citizen of Ethiopia and residing in or abroad of Ethiopia. At least 35 years of age. Has not been a candidate for any elective position preceding their appointment or free from any government body. ECHOR must free from governmental and political party affiliation. Besides, the Constitution asks that most ECHOR officials must be members of the lawyers residing inside or abroad of Ethiopia who have engaged in law practice for at least 5 years. Article 90, Federal Treason Crimes according to the new Constitution of Ethiopia. The treason crimes here shall define adhering to enemies of Ethiopia, giving them aid and comfort. Treason crimes would be our federal government's severe crime, especially if Ethiopia's president was intentionally betraying her country's allegiance by levying war against our government, providing part of Ethiopian land and our natural resources, or giving aid or comfort to its enemies. President, if he/she is convicted of treason crime from holding as head of federal office, the President of Ethiopia, the punishment for treason is life in imprisonment. All defendants from holding any national office, including the Congress member, if convicted of treason crime, the penalties are 10 years imprisonment and a 500,000 Ethiopian birr fine. Article 91, Legal authority of this Constitution. Both versions, Amharic and English, of this constitution, shall have legal authority after ratified by most Ethiopian people. The Amharic and English versions of this constitution shall have final legal authority after the majority of Ethiopia people made a referendum for this new constitution of Ethiopia. The new constitution of Ethiopia will become a supreme law of the land after a constitutional referendum held in Ethiopia. Future generations can amend the Ethiopian constitution if the majority of Ethiopian people so requires it. Almighty God helps us. God bless Ethiopia. Original draft of English part written and edited by Mekonnen Doyamo. This final edition is converted to audio by engineer Mesfin Yilma.